Hey everybody, Kevin here from ChangeWorks Interactive. I want to welcome you back this morning, and today I have a great guest with me. Her name is Michele Smith, and I want to let you know all about Michele Smith. And it's funny because we were just talking before we started recording today, and Michele was saying how she's getting all of these things together, like her website and some of the social media and the marketing that she's doing. I was saying, look out, because you are going to have a tsunami of work, I think, when we get back to normal here. I want to tell you a little bit about Michele. She lives in Barrie right now, and she is a busy person for sure. She has 5 sons. So think about that for a second. That I'm sure keeps her busy. Michele worked for IBM for about 30 years, and she retired in 2011. And in 2013, she joined a group called MLS Custom Travel, and that's part of Travel Professionals International, or TPI. So she became an owner and a travel advisor in 2013. My wife and I had the opportunity and the pleasure of going to Italy a few years back, and Michele arranged for us a wonderful trip. Unforgettable. It was awesome. So Michele's, like I said, a very busy person. A lot of the these days, a lot of stuff going on with strategizing, thinking about next steps. She does conferences, she does webinars, and she's reaching out to different people. When she does have any spare time, she's kicking the feet up at the cottage, which is a good place to be. Michele, welcome to the show today.
Thanks, Kevin. It's an honor to be here. I really, I'm really happy to talk to you about some of the things that I've gone through in my life and my journey. Just for the viewers, I saw Kevin's podcast, and yes, Kevin's a client of mine, and I saw that he was in this business, didn't really understand it, and I said, you know, I think I might have a story that you'd like to share with your viewers.
Absolutely.
So, so if we want to just talk a little bit about that.
Sure. You know, this is a show, Michele, about just to give people inspiration, maybe some validation that when they're going through changes in their life, that maybe it's a little bit more common than you think. And the important thing is, I think, to keep in mind is, well, how do we bounce back when things happen to us, or on the professional side or the personal side? You know, what do we do? And it gives people hope that that they can make that change, or that they can bounce back. So, you know, maybe that's a good place to start off today is, hey, let's face it, this last year has been devastating for a lot of people. So tell us maybe a little bit about that, Michele, with how you're trying to position your company, what kind of things that you're doing, and how the pandemic has really impacted the travel industry.
Okay, so let's just start from the beginning. So I was at IBM for 30 years.
Okay.
And I was very successful there. I would say my first 20 years were fabulous. I absolutely loved IBM. My career was primarily in sales and marketing, and selling all types of things, managing teams. And my last 10 years, I really wasn't that into it, and I really couldn't wait to retire. I was very fortunate to be in a defined benefit pension plan, which is unheard of today.
Yeah.
And so at 50, I retired with no game plan. So 30 years of my life, I really grew up at IBM, and I identified as an IBMer. And it was like, okay, now what? And I was also going through another life change. My marriage dissolved in 2009. I lived in Oakville. Mm-hmm. And so there were all these changes happening. A little while later, I met somebody from Barrie, Ontario, my current husband. And, you know, when I left IBM, I no longer needed to live in Oakville. So I moved with my 2 sons in with my current husband and his 3 sons. That's how I have 5 sons. Yeah. And we blended. And so for 2 years after I retired, I didn't work. I cleaned the house. I took care of, you know, making sure the kids were all calm and all where they needed to be, because it was a big life change for them as well.
Sure.
And Wayne and I, you know, built our family and stabilized everybody. And the whole time, I didn't think I was going to go into a big career like I had at IBM. I didn't really want to be corporate. And so I was interviewing for jobs in the city. They had me traveling around North America. It meant that I had to drive from Barrie to the city. Not that something I wanted to do because we're in the snow belt.
Yeah.
So Wayne and I went through lots and lots of conversations. And in January of 2013, well, Christmas, he gave me a red suitcase and I was really sad. And he said, "Why are you so sad? You love to travel." And I said, "You know, I have all this time and I can't travel." And in January, I started thinking, I'm going to go back to school and I'm going to be in the travel business. Didn't know what that meant.
Yeah.
So I started making phone calls. I started doing my research. And I met someone on the phone. I explained who I was. I explained my background, explained that I ran businesses for IBM Canada. And she was like, "You're not going to go to Humber or Georgian. You're just not going to do that." She said, "There's these companies out there where you can buy like a franchise and they give you like a turn kit and they'll teach you everything you need to know. You'll be up and running in a month." And I'm like, "Really? In a month?" And that's in fact what I did. And so I researched these companies and I decided which one I was going to go with. And I went with TPI, which is Travel Professionals International. And it's a home-based agency. So you work from your home. There's no bricks and mortar, there's no store. And you build your business based on word of mouth. So very much a leap of faith, but TPI is my, they're my backbone. They're the company that they're fantastic. I've never in my life thought, you know, I went with the wrong company. They have been fabulous to me and very, very supportive. So they have great staff, great leadership. The owner is Morris Chia out of Winnipeg. He was the first home-based agency in Canada. Zaina Gideon, she's an incredible executive, and I have access to both of them. And so I've worked my way through, and that's kind of how I started.
Yeah.
The contract that I signed allowed me to have a team. And there was a contract without a team and a contract with the team. And I very much loved working with people and loved managing people and coaching people. It was a very big thing for me. So I chose to get the contract with people. And 8 years later, I have 7 people that are on my team.
Wonderful.
They don't work for me, they work with me. I train them. It's easier for them to start in a team like mine than to start on their own like I did. Because you have to create a lot of things, even though TPI is there, you have to create your website, you have to create booking forms for your clients. There's a lot of infrastructure that you have to develop. So it's easier for them. And then when you have a team, what's great is you have all these minds that you can work with. You can help each other research, you can back each other up. So it's been great, you know, and it was definitely a leap of faith. I didn't, at that time, I didn't research. I researched, but I didn't research as much as I could have. But it worked out.
That's great. That's great. That's a really good point about, and you're a pretty high energy person. I would classify you as, Michelle, please don't take that the wrong way. And you love talking to people, and I'm kind of the same way, you know, like that's part of my personality. And I find one of my challenges is that I'm doing a lot of my work, especially now, I do it all virtually. And I am in my home office and I don't get a chance to connect with a lot of different professionals who do the same thing I do.
Yeah, well, TPI has calls weekly. There are so many calls in the industry. Last night we had a virtual event, Royal Caribbean presented. I mean, there are so many opportunities because everybody's in the same boat that I'm in right now, as far as in the industry. So we're connecting all the time. What my challenge is connecting with clients right now, but clients have even been calling me because they have time. So, and that's where social media comes in. It's really important to have a social media presence, and that's stretching me as an individual because that's not, let's face it, that's not our generation, Kevin.
Yeah, yeah. And Michelle, just to go back in with some history and stuff, I think what happened was we have a mutual friend, Darcy, who who connected the dots for us. So that's exactly what you're talking about, is that networking and building that network.
Yeah, and networking is really, really important. But for me, like, people go, well, how do you get your clients? As soon as I step out the door and I go to any kind of event, I meet people, because let's face it, what do you talk about when you go to parties? You talk about where have you been, where you're going, what's on your list. It's a happy business. I mean, I'm so passionate about, this, Kevin. I mean, my husband says it's either travel or food. I'm a huge foodie. So I'm either talking about travel or I'm talking about food. And they really go hand in hand. So it's a great business. So at a party, I'm pretty popular because people want to know, where have you been? Where are you going? What kind of trips are you booking? What are the trends? What's happening? And it's a really, really interesting business. And COVID has been interesting. So let's step back to March 2nd last year when I got off the plane from Dubai. I had just been to a fantastic conference in Dubai, came home. Did I ever dream that was going to be my last trip in over a year? No. But COVID has given me an opportunity to breathe. I was working 60 hours a week, which I'm not complaining. That's good. A good, for me, I like to work. So it was fine, but it gave me an opportunity to step back and look at the business. And so now, instead of working in the business, doing all these bookings and making all people's dreams come true, I'm looking at the business and going, how could we be more efficient? What can we do? What else can we do for our clients? How can I reach out to more people? So I'm developing lots and lots of things that when the business comes back, we're going to be that much better.
When you are, when you're coaching some of the advisors that you work with that might be just starting off in the business, what kind of advice do you give, Michele, now that you're kind of a veteran at this? What kind of advice do you give? Let's say it's a person that might have changed careers or a young person getting into the field. What kind of things would you really advise them on?
That's a great question, Kevin. So I've managed lots of people in my career at IBM, and I now have 7 people on my team. 3 of them have been with me for a while, but 4 of them are brand new. So in July, I added 3 more people, and in December, I added a 4th. And they range from 20 to 65. So we have somebody in their 20s, 30s,
That's
40s,
great.
60s. Really, the team, if you can't find a personality at MLS Custom Travel that you can work with, you can't really work with anybody, right? So my biggest, it's not a challenge, but I try and give people enough room. Like, I believe you can teach people, you can coach people, but they have to walk through it themselves. And just because you had an experience doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to have the same exact experience.
Yeah.
So sometimes I catch myself and I go, give them the room to learn on their own, right? I don't want them to make huge mistakes, but I believe that there are more than one way. There's more than one way to do things. And so that's the biggest challenge in my mind is every client is different. Every person that works in this business is different. And there is room for their personality, for their way, and just let them be. Maybe, and I have very high energy and I'm very strong. So I don't want to crush anybody's spirit. Mm-hmm. But I want to give them my experience and let them internalize it and make up their own mind.
That's awesome. That's great. That's great. Yeah, I did ask a question about this last year, and I know that you were doing a lot of stuff. You go to conferences. I know it's virtual now, but you do a lot of PD. You try to connect with people. What's it been like sort of going through this? Because it's been a huge change for people, especially that are working at home. How do you keep yourself grounded, and maybe talk to us about what is coming up around the corner? Because every time we flip on the news now, it seems like inch by inch we're getting a little bit closer to reopening now.
Okay, so it was very difficult in the beginning because it wasn't just people not booking travel. As travel advisors and owning my own business, we get paid. I'll explain this to you. We get paid when people travel. If people don't travel and they cancel, we have to, if they've paid us, we have to give the money back. So it was an interesting transition financially. So, you know, you expect it's going to keep coming, and then all of a sudden it stops. Nobody
Yeah.
ever thought that would happen, right?
Yeah.
It's unprecedented. So we not only weren't booking, we weren't making money, but we were now giving money back that they gave us, and we were working for free. So that was super depressing. Everybody in the industry was struggling with that, right? That was, you know, that was really rough. Now the government really did help out with a little bit of money, but it wasn't even close to what we normally make. And so that money that they were giving us, we were giving back to tour operators to make everything whole. So we really didn't have any additional money. It was tough. It was tough.
Yeah.
So you need to pivot from that, right? And we started to pivot and having, you know, Zoom calls and having, getting educated and getting ready. And I'll tell you that after I, you know, cleaned up all the files, canceled all the trips, gave back all the money, I paused for a bit. I started painting furniture in my house. I started doing pictures. I started, you know, doing picture books, like photo books, and I started cleaning my house. I just took a break for a few months, right? And then come December, I guess around November, December, I pivoted again and I said, okay, what do you need to do for the business? And then I started working. I did the website, and I told you before we started, I basically myself, who's not technical, anybody that worked with me at IBM knows I'm not technical, created a website. Now my team wrote and they helped and everything, but I did all the development of it. Like I learned how to do it, and it's 48 pages. It's massive. I thought I would have a 10-page website. It became 48. So I'm very proud of that. And, you know, so I'm looking for, I get up every day, have my coffee, come and sit in this room. And every day I have an itinerary. And it's, you know, I'm going to you know, this morning it's with you, then I'm going to start a course. I've got, you know, we're working on different things for the business. And, you know, I'm working pretty much all day. And sometimes it's 7 days a week, because what else is there to do? You know? I mean,
that routine, right? That routine, Michele, is so important. You know, it's I do believe, and we were talking before that, you know, part of your mental health, you know, and that's my world, right? I'm talking to people about good mental health, and I think part of the mental health picture is not only traveling, but when you get back, it's booking your next trip. My wife works with a colleague, Dr. Doug, over at Trafalgar Medical, and that's what he does. He travels with his wife, and then as soon as he's done, he books something else, puts it in the calendar.
When I worked at IBM, I would have 2-3 trips booked at a time. So my mother would say, you know, like I would come back and she knew that. I mean, feet wouldn't be on the ground, and I would be like, this is where I'm going, this is where I'm like, I love travel. And in this job, one of the reasons I got into the business is, you know, I wanted to travel. I wanted a way to travel, and I'm traveling 8 to 10 weeks a year. And people are like, how can you do that and run a business? Well, you get a team. You get a team. The other thing I do, like my husband and I in 2019 went to Ireland for 2 weeks. People go, oh, must have been so relaxing. Well, sort of, but we did 2,400 kilometers on the car. I had 19 meetings in Ireland. I mean, you know, if I just go to a hotel, I have to have a tour. I have to meet with the you know, whoever, you know, we were in St. Patrick's, we had a private tour. You know, I meet people so that when my clients go to Ireland, I can't have been everywhere, but where I've been, you know, I create relationships. So it, you know, and I love it. I love it, love it, love it.
That's great. That's great. In terms of next steps, Michele, about things that you have going on, you told us about some of the things that you're doing technically. Any special projects or any special community events or things that you have coming up right now?
Well, we're doing virtual events. So TPI is doing virtual events on Wednesday evenings at 7 o'clock.
Okay.
And they're wonderful. My husband and I hook the computer to the TV. We grab a coffee or a glass of wine, and we watch them Wednesday nights at 7. And you can sign up at tpi.ca/virtual events. Okay. And if you've missed any of the events, You can go back and watch the recordings. They've had Quark Expeditions, which is all about polar travel. They've had Rocky Mountaineer, which is Western Canada, the beautiful train with the dome, the domed glass. Last night it was Royal Caribbean. So they talked about different cruises around the world, and they talk about some of the changes with the pandemic and things like people don't know what travel is going to look like when it opens up. We really don't know. People keep going, well, will I be safe? Will this and that? And it's like, yes, you'll be safe, but I can't tell you today what all the protocols are going to be. They're evolving and they're going to continue to evolve. And when we get there, they may be completely different, right? So we don't know.
What are some of the hot spots? What are some of the places that either you love going to or you'd advise people to check out?
Well, I love Italy. I mean, I've been to Italy 4 times, and I would say that prior to COVID, that was the #1 place that people wanted to go. I booked a lot of Italy. Ireland was the second. Hawaii, Tahiti. Now, I haven't been to Tahiti, but I've done so much research and so many trips on Tahiti.
You'll get there. I'm sure you'll get there.
Well, I was supposed to be there February 19th, but that didn't happen. So yes, Tahiti is definitely on my list. But because Tahiti is, Tahiti has the same number of hotel rooms, people don't know this, as the MGM Grand in Las Vegas. So that's one hotel. Now, that's a massive hotel.
Yeah.
But all of Tahiti, and Tahiti is 118 islands and atolls. So it's the little, and some of them are uninhabited, right? But it's small, so you have to book far in advance. That's definitely on my list. The other place on my list is I want to go to Kenya and Tanzania. I've been to South Africa. That was my very first trip when I was 23. I spent 3 weeks there and I loved it. I want to go back. I'm hoping maybe to go back at the end of this year if things open up and are safe. Peru, I went to Machu Picchu. I mean, that's fantastic. I mean, Peru is such an interesting country. The people live well into their 90s because the altitude, and also that is farm to table land. I mean, when people talk farm to table, it is, I mean, I can't tell you how many types of quinoa they have and how many types of potatoes and how they do them so many different ways. But that was a fabulous, fabulous trip. And a big surprise was Machu Picchu was, something everybody knows about was Puno, which is Lake Titicaca, which is the Uros Islands, which is where they actually cut down the reeds and weave their own land. And the women there are in charge, and the women hunt and fish and are the providers, and the men sew and cook, and it's a very different community. And that was really fascinating to me. There's so many places. I went and I spent a month in Asia. I went to Thailand, all around Thailand, and then I did Vietnam and Cambodia. And I absolutely loved Hanoi. Hanoi was a big surprise for me.
Very good.
And I went to Hong Kong and Macau. Macau was another big surprise. Just so I've been a lot of places, probably over 60 countries on 6 continents. So I want to get to that 7th continent, and I just love it.
Very good. Very good. Michele, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show today. Just listening to you, you could tell how passionate you are about travel. And my takeaway from listening to you is that this is just around the corner. It gives us hope. And I agree. Food and travel, they just go so well together. And who doesn't love that? Who doesn't love that? So that's my takeaway. That's my takeaway
Happy
today.
Business and its dreams. Thanks so much for this opportunity, Kevin. I really appreciate it.
Awesome, Michele. Hope to talk to you soon.